Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the IBF Champions Report. This is the first edition of the 2025 Champions Report for the International Boxing Federation champions and title belts, all the way from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So this Champions Report, it's the first one of the year of 2025. We ended, the last one was the yearly Champions Report on all title belts from 122 to heavyweight. And now we're going to kick off this year. We're going to start at 122 pounds super bantamweight, where the reigning IBF and undisputed champion and undefeated is the monster Naoya Inoue still. Inoue, ended up fighting a replacement opponent on January 24th. He was supposed to fight Sam Goodman, but Goodman had to pull out with an injury again. And Inoue would take on Ye Jun Kim, dominate Ye Jun Kim with a fourth-round knockout victory, as he would retain the IBF and undisputed super bantamweight title. What we know right now is that Inoue has his has his sights set on his next fight. What it looks like is he is going to end up fighting David Allen Picasso, who is his undefeated WBC mandatory challenger right now. There's two working dates right now. It's either going to be May 2nd in Las Vegas. May 3rd in Las Vegas. Apologies. Or it's going to take place on June 14th is the other working day right now. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking, I think that's a good matchup. I do think it's going to get finalized soon here, and then that is going to be what takes place. But, who knows? But I do believe it gets finalized before the next Champions Report. And if it's going to be the May date, I will have my breakdown and prediction video done by then, and I can let you guys know what I think and who I think is going to win the fight on the next Champions Report. Next at 126, featherweight. The reigning champion there is Angelo Leo. Leo, we heard the news that he will be facing his mandatory challenger, Tomoki Kameda. That fight is going to take place on, it looks like May 24th, I believe was the working date, and it's going to take place in Japan. The fight has not been finalized. I do believe it is going to be finalized very soon, probably this month. And then it'll be scheduled to take place, I believe, on ESPN on an all-Japanese show. So it should be a good one right there. I will have I will give my prediction on that fight either by the next Champions Report or it will be a little bit after that. Next at 130, super featherweight. The title is currently vacant. Anthony Kakachi entered the year as champ, but he ended up vacating the title instead of making his mandatory defense against Eduardo Sugar Nunez. Nunez has since been ordered to face off against Masanori Rikishi, the next highest available contender. These two guys are going to collide. Right now, I think they had a working date of May, I believe, but I could be wrong on that. But I do believe that fight's going to get finalized very soon, and then the vacant title will be decided. But I believe it's going to be decided after the next Champions Report at the end of April, so we'll see what takes place. But it is going to be Nunez and Rikishi for the IBF 130-pound title. Next at 135, lightweight. Still the reigning champ there is Vasily Lomachenko, but Lomachenko was granted a second medical exception to hold on to his belt. The IBF has ordered Raymond Murataya and, Zaur Abdullayev. They're the top two highest rated challengers. They've ordered them to fight for the vacant interim title, and the winner will be in line to fight Lomachenko. Right now, I'm not sure the working date that they have. I believe it is May for Murataya and Abdullayev. Once that fight gets finalized, we'll release it and give a prediction on the fight. But that is a very good matchup between two top 10 lightweights competing to get in line for Lomachenko, so that's good. So hopefully by the next Champions Report, we at least kind of have some direction on when that fight's going to take place, and then when, hopefully, Lomachenko will be returning later on in the year. Next at 140, junior welterweight, undefeated Richardson Hitchens is still the champ. had heard news that he could be attempting to unify belts against Teofimo Lopez next, but now Lopez has went in the direction to make a mandatory defense of his title against Arnold Barbosa Jr. There's also talks about Hitchens fighting George Kambosos, but Kambosos is fighting on March 22nd against Daoud Yardan. I'm not sure what Hitchens is going to do next with everybody else having fights. Hitchens did win his title back in December, so I think May or June might be a good date for him. Maybe Kambosos doesn't get hurt in the fight with Yardan, and then he can fight Kambosos. Going to be interesting to see what comes from this, especially with Subriel Matias, the mandatory #1 contender now. Is the IBF going to order Hitchens to fight, Richard? Are they going to order Hitchens to fight Subriel Matias? And is that fight going to take place soon, in the next few months, to kind of parallel Lopez and Barbosa as they fight in a mandatory fight? I personally think that's what they should do. Maybe get Matias and Hitchens good to go for June, as long as Matias doesn't have any injuries, maybe a 3.5 month layoff. He gets a shot at Hitchens. The winner can fight the winner of Lopez and Barbosa, because that's taking place at the end of May. And that would set up a unification bout by the end of the year, and they would both have their mandatories out of the way. So we'll see. But hopefully by the next Champions Report at the end of April, we have a good idea of what Richardson Hitchens is going to do with his 140-pound title. Next at 147, welterweight, undefeated, reigning undefeated champion there is Jerome Boots Ennis. And what we know is that Boots has signed on to unify belts against WBA champion Imantas Stanionis. We knew he was negotiating with Stanionis and WBC champ Mario Barrios. He decided on Stanionis. They will collide on Saturday, April 12th to unify belts at 147 pounds welterweight. I'm not giving my prediction right now. Boots is the favorite going in. Stanionis is the underdog. I'm going to be doing a breakdown and prediction video on this fight towards the 3rd week of March in that area. But I love the matchup, and I can't wait to see it. And we'll see if Boots is still IBF champ and now unified, or if Stanionis becomes the new IBF champ and unified. So we'll see what happens. That's, again, April 12th on DAZN main event. Next at 154, super welterweight. Still the reigning and undefeated champion there is Bakram Murtazaliev. Murtazaliev just came out and said that he wants to fight the best, that he wants to get back in the ring soon. He last fought in October when he destroyed Tim Tszyu in 3 rounds. We haven't heard anything on what he could possibly do. We know Erickson Lubin's been ordered to fight in a final eliminator, so we know Murtazaliev's not going to go down that route. Maybe he'll get a solid opponent for his next fight, but I do expect to hear news on what Murtazaliev is going to do by the next Champions Report, and when he's going to return to make an optional defense of his title. Next at 160, middleweight. The reigning IBF and unified champion is Janibek Alamanhalai, also undefeated. He also holds the WBO title. Janibek has announced his next fight, April 5th. He'll defend his unified title. I forget the guy's name. It's some guy I've never heard of. I'm really disappointed in the opponent selection, especially right now, but it is what it is, and Janibek will be back. I expect him to win. I'm not doing a breakdown and prediction video on his fight. I'm expecting him to retain his 2 titles with a knockout win, and push forward towards the second half of the year. We'll see what happens. Next at 168, super middleweight, the reigning undefeated champion there is William Skull. Well, Skull got the best news of his entire professional career, as he is good to go for Saturday, May 3rd, Riyadh season, DAZN pay-per-view. He is going to challenge Canelo Alvarez to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. He is a heavy underdog going into this fight, but so what? It's about the opportunity and the exposure. And he is getting both in this fight. So William Skull challenging for the title on May 3rd. I'm going to have my breakdown and prediction video done by the next Champions Report at the end of April, right before this fight happens. And I will give my prediction on Skull versus Canelo then. Next at 175, light heavyweight, the new IBF and undisputed light heavyweight world champion is Dmitry Bivol. Bivol challenged and defeated Arthur Beterbiev by a majority decision in their much-anticipated rematch on the last Crescendo card that took place in the main event on a DAZN pay-per-view card as part of Riyadh season on February 22nd. It was a great fight, again in their rematch, but Bivol went and took it to Beterbiev and won the championship rounds and won a close decision, as these two guys are splitting hairs between who's better between their two fights now. Now, what we have heard already is that the WBC has ordered Bivol to fight their mandatory challenger and interim champion, David Benavidez. But right now, there's a couple things that throw a monkey wrench into that. IBF mandatory challenger Michael Eifert is technically the #1 ranked contender right now. He's the mandatory. He is the #1 mandatory of all mandatories. So he is first in line to get a shot at Bivol. Then Callum Smith, the WBO interim champion, is next in line, and Benavidez would be third. So for Bivol, I personally can't see him fighting Michael Eifert next, unless he really, really wants to hold on to undisputed that much. Either the IBF is going to accept step aside money again, or I think Bivol gives up the IBF title, to be honest, and either goes after Callum Smith or Benavidez. But there's a lot of options on the table for Bivol. I really think he could fight Beterbiev in a third fight. And, you know, if that happens, I think he's going to vacate the IBF title. And I could see him going after David Benavidez second, and then vacating the IBF title. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see. Right now, I'd say the odds of Bivol being the IBF champion are thin. You know, I think he could give the title up. And then, you know, we'll see what happens. But I really like Bivol. I hope he doesn't give up the belt, but I think he's going to. And I think Michael Eifert will get ordered to fight the next highest rated challenger for the vacant belt. Hopefully by the next Champions Report at the end of April, we're going to have a clearer picture, and I think we will. Next at 200 pounds, cruiserweight, the reigning undefeated champion, two-time champion, is Jai Opetaia. Opetaia is still undefeated. He's still the champion. He took on David Nyika as a replacement opponent for mandatory challenger Hussein, Sin Cara. And he dominated Nyika, stopping him in 4 rounds to retain his title. Right now, it's not clear what he is going to be ordered to do next. As far as I know, Nyika is still technically the mandatory challenger, but it's unclear if they are going to order him to fight Nyika. Personally, I mean Sin Cara is the mandatory challenger. Personally, I think they are going to order him to fight Sin Cara next, because he really wants to fight. He really wants to take on Gilberto Ramirez in a unification bout, but right now that doesn't seem likely between the two, because Ramirez also has a mandatory due against Junior Dorticos. So I think they're going to get their mandatories out of the way in the first half of the year. So I think Opetaia will have his next fight, and it will be a mandatory fight against Sin Cara. That'll happen by May or June, and then the winners between Opetaia and Gilberto Ramirez, as long as they are still the champions, they will fight to unify titles later in the year. But you never know. We got to wait and see what happens. But I do believe by the next Champions Report at the end of April that is going to be what goes down between these two. So we'll see.